Well, good evening. Good evening to YouTube. Good evening to Twitter, Facebook, Periscope, and I'm forgetting something else. Twitter, Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube. Good evening to all of you. I appreciate you being here. I think it's Monday evening. I'm not sure why. I never know what day it is, but for some reason I have difficulty remembering what day it is. One thing I don't have difficulty remembering is when I was a Christian, and I'm not a Christian anymore, but when I was a Christian, I was a Bible believing Christian. I believed everything I found in the Bible, and I found everything I did in the Bible. I did not mess around. I did not play around. I did not fool around. I was Bible based through and through. And I have a question for you folks that still consider yourself Christians. And even if you don't consider yourself a Christian, I have questions for you folks that say that you believe the Bible. I've got a question for you. And for some reason, this doesn't want to work with me, but okay. I have a question for you. Here's the question. How is this bleep okay with you? How is this okay with you? And if you're not on, if you're on Twitter, if you're on Periscope, if you're on Facebook, unfortunately, you can't see this. Go on over to the YouTube channel, Jeff Daugherty Show, Christian Whistleblower. Just put that in. It'll pull it up for you. What you have here is a picture. And it is a picture I just took out of my own Bible. The Bible that I used to preach for probably at least 10 of those 20 years that I was a preacher. And this is the table of contents page out of that Bible. And it shows, obviously, the table of contents, the books of the Old Testament. I've got my "How is this bleep okay with you" written over it because we're not really worried about the Old Testament for this. But the books of the New Testament you can see. And you can see there's a lot of marking up here. And the books of the New Testament down there at the bottom, those are the books of the New Testament as they appear within the current New Testament. Matthew, and we're going from first to last. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, how they appear in the Bible now. 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, Titus, Philemon, Hebrews, James, 1 Peter, 2 Peter, 1st, 2nd, 3rd John, the book of Jude, and Revelation. That's how they appear in the Bible. Now, if you're looking at this, you're probably saying, what are those numbers? Well, let's just talk about the numbers to the right of it that are in parentheses. Those are that is the date. Those numbers represent the date. The date in which the book was written and published. Matthew 66 AD, Mark between 57 and 63, Luke 63, John 85 to 90, Acts 65, Romans 58, Corinthians 57, Galatians 57, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians 57, Thessalonians 52, 53, 1st, 2nd Timothy 67, 68, Titus 68, Philemon 62, Hebrews 68, James 47, 1 Peter, 2 Peter 60, 66, all the Johns about 90, Jude about 66, Revelation about 96. So if you were given a set of 27 books like this of the New Testament, and you were told to put them in order, how would you put them in order? Well, you would put them in order in the way that they were written, wouldn't you? Any normal person that doesn't have an agenda, that's not trying to hide something, or that's not trying to promote something would do that. So look at this. Here's the order of the books according to their chronological date of writing. It should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 down to 27. But it's not. Listen to these numbers. These numbers I'm saying are the date that the book, no, these numbers, we already talked about the dates. The date, these numbers that I'm telling you are the correct chronological order of the book as they appear now. So the first book, Matthew, which you say, oh, that's got to be number 1, that was the 11th book published. Why do you start a compilation of books with the 11th book published, then the 5th book published, then the 9th book published, then the 13th book published? Why isn't it 1, 2, 3, 4? Why is it 11, 5, 9, 13? And why is this shit okay with you? We're just going to say it. 11, 5, 9, 13. Not 1, 2, 3, 4. 11, 5, 9, 13. 10, 6, 4. You see there's 3 of them that are written the same year. So 10, 6, 4, 8, 2, 3, 12, 8, 12, 1. Look at this. The first book written is down here in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. The first book written is in 20th place. 20th place in the compilation. 20th place. The first book written is in number 20 place, number 12 chronologically. It's crazy. 12, 1, 7, 11, 14, 11, 15. It's ridiculous. Totally, completely ridiculous. How is this shit okay with you? Here is the real chronological order of the books. This is how they should have been put into the Bible. James, 1 Thessalonians, 2 Thessalonians, Corinthians, Galatians, Mark, Romans, 1 Peter, Philippians, Ephesians, Colossians, Philemon, Luke, Acts, Matthew, Jude, 2 Peter, 1 and 2 Timothy, Hebrews, Titus, John, 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, Revelation. That's the order they should have been put in. And this is in my very own personal Bible. This is coming right out of my personal Bible. I know that there's some cynics out there, so there's the page I took the picture of. How is this shit okay with you? If you're a Christian, how is this doo-doo okay with you? If you're a person that believes the Bible, how is this shit okay with you? If you're a person that has any integrity, how is this shit okay with you? How is it okay that they took to order these books and they totally, completely mangled them up? How is it okay with you? Why did they do it? Well, look what you have here. In the mangled order, you've got Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They're called the Gospels, right? You throw in there, no, just Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Those are called the Gospels, right? Okay, those are the Gospels. And what do the Gospels do? Well, the Gospels talk about Jesus and how he was born and how he lived and how he got crucified and how he rose from the dead and how he's coming again. 80% of those are dung, garbage, but it's just this nice little story, right? Just a nice little story, make you feel good. Then along comes Paul with Acts all the way through to Hebrews. It's all Paul all the time. All Paul all the time. And then we have a little bit of James and Peter, and then comes the prophecy. So nice little stories about Jesus, just like Mother Goose. Paul giving you the real doctrine and then finishing it up with some prophecy. That's the lie they want you to believe. That's the scam they want you to buy. That's the pig in the poke that they want you to fall for. But the reality of how the New Testament was published is this. First, you had James write, the Apostle James, an apostle of the Christ. He wrote. And then what happened? 1st, 2nd Thessalonians, Corinthians, Galatians, Paul fires back. James writes, Paul fires back. Mark writes, Paul fires back. Peter writes, Paul fires back with Philippians, Ephesians, Colossians, and Philemon. Luke writes, Luke also wrote Acts. Matthew writes, Jude and 2 Peter are written. Paul fires back with 1st and 2nd Timothy, with Hebrews, with Titus. Then John, 60 years after everybody's finished writing, John comes in and writes his gospel, writes 1st, 2nd, 3rd John, and writes Revelation. So if you look at what really happened in the New Testament, the apostles wrote and Paul responded. The apostles wrote and Paul responded. The apostles wrote and Paul responded. The apostles wrote and Paul responded, and then nothing for 60 years. And then John comes back with 60 years, somewhere between 40 and 60. Don't mince numbers with me. Somewhere between 40 and 60 years later, John comes back, gives the last testament of the apostolic era, the last will and testament of the New Testament, puts it all together with his, really John and the 3 epistles of John, Revelation, partially him, but mostly dung. What this shows, ladies and gentlemen, is beyond a shadow of a doubt, the New Testament wasn't this little homogeneous, nice little fairy tale story that they've concocted. It was a back and forth battle. Apostles, Paul, apostles, Paul, apostles, Paul, apostles, Paul, apostles, Paul, John. It was a back and forth battle between the apostles of the Christ and the apostles of Paul. That's why they put the books all out of order, because if they left them in order like this, you can see what happened. You can see it was a back and forth between the apostles and the apostle Paul, the self-proclaimed apostle Paul. It was a back and forth between the disciples of the Christ and between Paul and his followers. And when you see it in its chronological order, it's perfectly easy to understand. And don't tell me they didn't know. Don't tell me they didn't know, because I'm going to show you they knew exactly what they were doing. What do you notice from Acts, which was basically Paul dictating to Luke? What do you notice between Acts and Hebrews? I'll wait. What do you notice between Acts and Hebrews? They're in perfect chronological order. Somehow, even though they completely jumbled and corrupted the order of the books of the New Testament, they somehow were able to keep the order of the books of Paul intact. Why? Because when you read a person's writings sequentially in the order in which they were written, then you get to understand and see the development of thought and doctrine. You get to understand what the person was talking about, how he built upon his logic and his ideas expanded, and how they grew and developed. So don't sit there and tell me that it doesn't really matter if it's not in order, because it sure as hell mattered when it came to the writings of Paul. And again, I ask you, how is this shit okay with you? Now, granted, there's 2 occasions where it's not in chronological order. 2 occasions. But they got it right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. They got it right 15 times. They missed twice. Don't tell me it's not intentional. Don't tell me they didn't know exactly what they were doing. But do tell me how this shit's okay with you. If this is okay with you, you can't even spell integrity. If this is okay with you, you would know integrity if you tripped over it. Thank you, Madame Katrina. I appreciate it very much. I'm going to go back. You've listened to me. I'm going to go back through the chat room and answer questions and address things. JLB7, I'm glad you're able to join in. Any thoughts while we wait on our host of the books that didn't make the cut? Well, they were books that didn't fit with the paradigm that was being presented by the dominant. History's written by the winners, and the winners wrote this as well. I studied Jehovah's Witnesses for more than 25 years, some of the best education I ever had. But even they, Laverne, don't address the fact that the New Testament's out of order. Plus, they don't address the fact that there was no J until the 17th century. That's problematic. They don't address the fact that Jesus wasn't crucified. That's problematic. But I'll tell you this, there's more truth in the Jehovah's Witness than there is in the Baptist Church. How many books that should be included in the Bible didn't make Constantine's cut? This is way before Constantine, Sterling. Way before Constantine. And that's a great question. It's so not okay. 20 years of my life, and I don't like being lied to. I agree with you, Madame Katrina, or Madam, however you say that. Thank you, Eliora JK. And I appreciate you very much giving that that chat, that super chat. Just so you know that YouTube does take a very large proportion of the super chat donations. So if you'd prefer to give it all to your friendly neighborhood Christian whistleblower, go ahead and just go to my I'll show you right now. Go to my website. Like so, go to my website and you can go right here and donate. Or even better yet for you, go here to this Mistech, because you might even know you need this. You might not even know you need this. These are these bands that I wear. They allow me to sleep half the time, get twice the rest, improve my performance in the gym, make it easier for me to fast, give me great improvement in meditation, astral projection, and my other spiritual disciplines and practices, and they greatly increase my energy and vitality. Go over here, decide which one you want, come back here, hit the donate button, and you will see this, Mistech Bands by Jeffrey Daugherty. If you don't see that, you have not saved 20%. If you do see this, you will save 20%. If you don't see this, you haven't saved 20%. You haven't helped you, and you haven't helped you help me, because I don't get my little portion if you don't use this. So just so you know. Just so you know. All right. Clint Steele is here again. Clint, I actually looked at some of your videos. You've got some interesting stuff out there about Saturn. JW has also turned to a medium to write their Bible. Yeah, that's probably true. I'm not a Jehovah's Witness now. Knowledge bombs and all the subject he speaks of. Thank you. Please stay on target with what we're talking about. Can't wait for Mistech. Thank you. Jeff, have you ever played Lotto? I'm using Bible Hub. Perfect. Bible Hub's really good. Bible Hub is really good. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have yet to find one Christian, And all the years that I've been yapping my mouth about this, and it's been about 6 or 7, I've been asking them, explain to me why the New Testament is not in order. Explain this shit to me. And they can't, because you can't explain it. There's no explaining it. Well, Jeff, the Holy Spirit determined the order of the books. Yeah? Well, was the Holy Spirit drunk the first time he inspired this order? Or was he drunk the second time when it came out this way? Either way, that Holy Spirit was drunk one of them times. I happen to believe that the divine probably inspired it right, and then a bunch of men got together and made it wrong. Call me a skeptic. I don't think God makes mistakes. But that's just me. Intentional deception explains it, as Sterling says. I agree. If you've got answers, I'm all ears. Why is this stuff okay with you? Why do you accept it? Why do you just go whistling by and not even bother it? Why? There's no explanation. The only explanation is deception and lies. They were counting on the followers being drunk on the Holy Spirit. That's funny. And it's not okay, as Ellie MacVenue 23 says. That's all I got. But I want to leave you. Questioning. I want to leave you wondering. I want to leave you asking, how is this okay? And how is it possible that it's lasted all these years? How is this beep okay with you? I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, encouraging you to explain this crap and unindoctrinate yourself. Whoop, that is not what I expected to see happen. That is not what I expected to see happen. Unindoctrinate yourself.